Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show, a member of the Pod Bros Podcast Network. Go to podbros.com and find yourself another podcast you want to listen to. And don't forget to visit our sponsors, Trap and Roll Soap Company, Tape Armor, and Angry Joe Coffee. I'm Rob, and today we have a special guest with us. We have Black Belt Mike Velotta. He traveled all the way out here to Germany to teach with us for a week, and I have an opportunity to sit down with him as well and talk about, well, I guess just about everything. So,
right.
Yeah, how's it going, Mike?
Good, man. How you doing?
Doing all right, man. I really do appreciate you coming out this week and training with us and showing us all these magical moves that, like, I'm not going to give away secrets, but that one arm lock you showed me at the end today,
yeah.
like, my mind has exploded because I'm always like,
stuff,
get your arm out of there, but now I have another option just to hurt people.
Absolutely. That's the best. Now I can hurt you more.
Yeah, well, that's like the whole point of jiu-jitsu. The fun stuff is the submissions to me.
Absolutely. Dude, well, like I said, man, earlier, it's an honor for me to be here. I love to travel and train. Just getting an opportunity to train with people who love jiu-jitsu like I do. Man, I'll travel around the world for that. I love being a part of a lot of different groups at one time. You know, I don't like to stick to one little thing only and just only stifle myself, you know. I love to branch out and learn and train, teach. It's good.
Nice. So where are you currently doing jiu-jitsu? Where are you teaching out of?
Right now I run my academy out of Madison, Wisconsin. It's called Foundations BJJ. We're a not-for-profit, so we're a 501c3. Our goal is to basically do what I just said. We like to open up our doors and provide the best jiu-jitsu that we can for a very cheap price. We don't do contracts. We don't do any of that stuff. We just, if you can show up and pay, great. And you want to train, great. We'll teach you what you want to know. That's where I'm at. Nice.
Very nice. So based on just traveling out here and traveling the world and stuff, do you, like, we all know there's like variations between, like, you know, the jiu-jitsu in Brazil and the jiu-jitsu in the West Coast and the East Coast. Do you see a difference with like maybe European jiu-jitsu or anything?
Absolutely.
Like that?
I actually have really good knowledge of this because I grew up in California. So I started jiu-jitsu on the West Coast. And it blew up really early in the 90s when the UFC first started getting big. And then after I moved to Germany, where I was living in Germany at the time, there was no jiu-jitsu. It was only judo and sambo and some wrestling. And they were trying to get some tournaments going on, and there were some schools around, but they were all far away. I didn't have an opportunity to train with anyone, so I was teaching the blue belt level stuff that I knew. And now that I come back, 15 years later, it's amazing how much jiu-jitsu is everywhere now. But after the Army, I moved to the East Coast. So I've lived in the West and East, and now I'm in the Midwest, and it's finally starting to catch on there too. So yeah, it's very different than it used to be. The level has definitely improved, and I see a lot more, especially like in the UK and the Western European countries, jiu-jitsu is exploding. So yeah, the difference is, I'm really shocked right now. Like coming back here, and you guys are telling me there's another gym 45 minutes away, and there's another gym over here. It's great. Because when I was here, there was nothing. So it's definitely different.
And I do find it funny that I've kind of, like, during our class, was it yesterday? And you're like, yeah, and then I went down to this one gym and taught in LA boxing. Like, it's funny because I keep talking about how small this community is.
Absolutely.
And how, like, you don't show your ass.
Yeah.
And it just, like, there's a good point right there.
Yeah.
So you trained, or you taught at the academy, like one of the academies I used to train at before I joined the Army.
Yeah. It was the Iron Lion Jiu-Jitsu team, and we were based out of LA Boxing in Cary in North Carolina. And we know some mutual people from there. Yeah. Which blew me away when you started talking. I was like, I know that guy too.
But of course, if you are from North Carolina, everybody knows Trevor Hayes. So.
Yes. How can you not? Dude, that guy's my favorite.
Just the videos he puts up, and god dang, that dude's a nutcase. But I also want to apologize to anybody listening. There's another guest in here. We got Woodhouse, my dog, because he wanted to hang out with Mike. So if you hear that jingling, that's his collar just going crazy. But
he's putting his head on my lap right now, like, hey, pet me some more.
And he has a gi. He does have a gi.
Does he have his own gi?
He's a black belt.
That's rad.
So I'm still like the lowest ranking person in the house, even with the dog. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. So you're also involved with the Globetrotter academies, right?
BJJ Globetrotters.
So like you said, you're a nonprofit organization that does Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you offer these classes. You travel a lot as well. So Globetrotters, like, correct me if I'm wrong, helping people out who don't have an affiliation or have a hard time finding places to train or just want to travel and train.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Globetrotters, they are an organization that's basically based on non-political jiu-jitsu. So any person that wants to train from any school, any affiliation, can come to a Globetrotter affiliation and not feel persecuted for being there. It's not like certain gyms have this kind of mentality. Well, if you train here, you can't train anywhere else, or if you train there, you can't come here. And to me, that's bogus. That's something that I've really worked hard to get away from. Yes, lineage is very important, and competition lineage is also very important, but it's also you can't just isolate yourself as an organization and think you're going to grow, because you won't. So the Globetrotters they're doing a really great thing. They put on camps all throughout the year, summer camps and winter camps, and they travel. They put them on everywhere, basically, from Europe to the Bahamas to America. And if you get a chance to go, I definitely would recommend it. They're a lot of fun. But yeah, Globetrotters is one of the organizations. It's actually one of the largest organizations now. That I think they're second largest in the world right now. That is this kind of affiliation, and they blow my mind every week, man. New people are posting every week. Hey, I'm going to be in this city. They're going to have 20 or 30 responses. Like, yeah, go to this gym. I trained here. Go to that place and eat. It's like it's a social network.
Yeah.
But it's for everything besides jiu-jitsu too. So
yeah, and I mean that's something cool. Like, I do like to talk about jiu-jitsu and everything, but it's also fun. Like today, we went to Königstein.
Yeah,
Königstein for a castle, and that's like shit you get to do with other jiu-jitsu people. And we talked a little. You're always going to talk jiu-jitsu, but also talk more about
King Mike and King Rob. Yeah, and our dance party on the on the parapets.
Freaking peasants and stuff. So and like people getting shot up trying to fucking storm castles and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's the type of stuff, like going out, hanging out with other jiu-jitsu people. Like that's why I think something's very big about this community. Yeah. Because I know, like, my wife is bored to death of me talking about jiu-jitsu. Like,
mine probably too, man.
Man, so something that we share in common is, we're both married. I don't know, does your wife train jiu-jitsu at all?
No, she does not train jiu-jitsu. She likes to box. That's actually how we met. I was her boxing coach. And we became best friends before we even started dating. And she has this thing about personal space and sweat. Yeah. She'd rather punch her face than let you get sweat on her. So that's how we met, man. And jiu-jitsu has always been my thing, and boxing and fitness has always been her thing. So yeah.
So is there like a difficult time sometimes with her understanding about going out and doing jiu-jitsu, or like some difficulties? Because I know that there are other people listening that I've talked to as well, and even myself. We dedicate our lives to jiu-jitsu. I mean, unfortunately, things like work and feeding dogs and the important things in life, it does get in the way. But we still have our hand in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. Do you have like any tips maybe for those of us who are not been doing jiu-jitsu as long as
man? I will tell you, I've been really blessed with finding the woman that I have that puts up with me. She has always supported me 100%. And we're actually going to have a baby soon. And we sat down probably a few weeks ago and I told her, I was like, look, I know that my lifestyle needs to change a little bit because I'm going to be here for the kid too. And, she's always been there for me from the day we met. She met me in a gym doing jiu-jitsu. She knows it's been part of my life. But she also helps balance me out too. Like, when I started going back to school, she's always been, hey, school is awesome. Let's finish that up for you. And then once that's done, the rest of your life is available, My best advice is always treat your wife like gold, because they're the ones that kind of let you have that free time to do the stuff that we like to do, And if you find the right one, I mean, it's a good match. There's some people who always want to be by your side or always want to have you at home or, really want to kind of monopolize the structure of your life. And I'm lucky that my wife is independent. She can do her own stuff. She's an engineer. She's very smart. She doesn't need me around to be like the guy. She is her own thing. We're lucky that we come together and it works really well. We're definitely best friends. And that's what I say, people, if you can find your best friend and marry him, cool. That's my best advice.
Makes a difference.
Yeah. Huge difference.
So getting back to some of your jiu-jitsu training as well. So you started out, like you said, West Coast, did some moving around, ended up East Coast, Midwest, came out here in Germany teaching a little bit. Yeah. And based on like all those experiences you've had, there's always been this talk of self-defense jiu-jitsu versus street jiu-jitsu versus, I don't know, like
competition
MMA.
Jiu-jitsu, sport jiu-jitsu,
What are your feelings towards that type of conversation? Like,
in my opinion, you have to keep an open mind, man. Because I started back in 96 or 97 And the jiu-jitsu that I started learning first was traditional Gracie jiu-jitsu. My first instructor, Chris Brennan and Roger Booking, they had just gotten back from Brazil. I mean, everything was based on self-defense, but Chris was an MMA fighter. He fought in UFC 13 and 15, I think it was, against Pat Miletich and a couple other guys. And his idea was, forget the gi, let's go no gi. And it's not self-defense, it's street fight. It's fighting to survive, you know. So the mentality was very different. And then when I've moved around, I've been to several different schools who were very strict Gracie Jiu-Jitsu schools. And you do self-defense every day. All your techniques were based off self-defense. Like if you ever go to a Pedro Sauer Academy, it's self-defense is part of every technique. But my opinion of it is you have to keep an open mind. Like other styles of martial arts, even jiu-jitsu is now branching into so many different areas that you're going to have gyms who will never, ever do combatives. They'll never do traditional Gracie jiu-jitsu. You have guys who do 10th Planet only. You guys have guys nowadays who have just Sambo gyms. You know, all the grappling styles are now kind of fragmenting into their own things. And yeah, they eventually come back together when it's tournaments and stuff. But you have to kind of figure out what you need in your life. Am I constantly in like a self-defense mode? Am I getting beat up on the street a lot? Do I like to compete? Do I want to do submission-only tournaments? Do I want to do like EBI rule tournaments? Or do I want to do strictly points? You know, like IBJJF. You could have two of the best guys in the world go at it, and it's going to be points-based because most of those guys don't give up submissions. You know, they don't give up the position, so they get submitted. And you have guys who basically can get their position and their points and sandbag you for, you know, the time until the time's out. So yeah, you got to keep an open mind.
Okay. So definitely, yeah, many differences between all the schools. But yeah, no, I like it all, honestly. You know, I enjoy being able to make sure I don't get stabbed in the face, but also
yeah, right.
I like competing. I do like competing as well. And I guess Woodhouse wants to leave now, but that's okay. He's stuck. But so going through that as well, you know, you do have a very diverse background, like you said, and bringing that all together. And you said you did compete for a little bit as well.
I competed from basically my second year of jiu-jitsu until about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. I mean, I'm 40 now. I'll be 41 in June. And my competition drive has slowed down a little bit now, finally. But I've done almost 20 years of jiu-jitsu, and almost every year I've competed multiple times. The drive for me used to be medals. Like I was saying earlier, I used to chase medals, man. You know, like the guys who used to train with Floyd Irwin.
Yeah.
It was all medal chasing, man. Those guys would win and win and win and win. And to do that, to win at that level, you have to constantly grind into that the mentality of always winning. And I just got tired of it. I mean, you get to a point where what are you really getting out of winning that first place medal? If you're never getting challenged and your jiu-jitsu is constantly better than anyone else's and no one's ever beating you on the mats, you don't get better. You just get good at what you do. You don't get better in jiu-jitsu. You just get better at what you already know.
Right.
You know, until someone comes along one day and they blow you out of the water, you know?
Yeah, so like, you know, a lot of people are driven by competition and stuff. So you feel that maybe a person, or do you feel it is possible for a person to continue to progress in belts without competing ever?
Yes, I do. But it's slowly shifting my mentality towards, or my mentality, I guess I should say, is slowly shifting towards that. I've met enough people now, being an instructor at my own school, who I know will never compete. Their jiu-jitsu can be phenomenal. They may be very talented. They may be very naturally talented and work really hard and get better and better and better. And they should earn the belt. I don't think that non-competition is a means to hold someone back. Because there are just certain people who don't like to compete. There are some people who may have like a physical limitation where their jiu-jitsu is really great for them, that they've already adapted to it. But if you put them in a competition scenario and they've never competed before, they're not going to have any success. And that can be very daunting for them. And then you have guys who I've met, even especially just recently, I basically had to ask a student to leave because his personality and his ego wouldn't allow him to let anybody beat him ever. And I asked him, I said one day, how do you feel about competition? And I'm not joking when I say this. He said, I'm too pretty to compete. My hair will get messed up. And it blew me away. I was like, wait, I thought he was joking. I started laughing. He's no, like, I'm serious. I'm like, and I said to him, you have the potential to be one of best people I've ever met on the mats, other than high level black belt guys that I've met in the past. And your hair will get messed up. That's why you don't compete. Okay, well, let's talk about that some other time. You know, and I told him, I was like, maybe this might not be the place for you, man. You know, if you want to just do this one particular style that you love to do, that's great. Let's find you a gym that does just that. And it wasn't that I wanted to make him do competition. It was that I could see already that his ego was getting in the way.
Right.
You know, and if that's one of the things I've learned over all the years I've been doing jiu-jitsu is, man, you got to leave that ego at the door. You got to be humble, you know.
Yeah, because I know Joe Rogan talks about jiu-jitsu being a douchebag filter, and
it absolutely is.
Yeah. Do you still find that there's still some like people who slip through the filter?
There is, absolutely, absolutely.
Is it now as a black belt yourself? Do you find that kind of frustrating that you feel that jiu-jitsu is a douchebag filter, and yet still the screen on that filter isn't tight enough, and still like I guess some of your peers can be perceived as douchebags.
I do, and there's been a lot of recent stuff that I've been just laughing my ass off about in the social media and the news about, some of these high-level black belts just talking so much shit or getting themselves in trouble and getting kicked out of their gyms, and it still surprises me today that someone can make it all the way through the years of jiu-jitsu to get a black belt and they haven't been humbled yet. Maybe they ride high on their success, and that's great, and that happens. But if they allow that to take over, man, it just like, it makes you wonder, well, are all black belts like this? Are all high level guys like this who've never been challenged enough? And that's not the case, man. I've seen that it's very, very few compared to very many. And the few that do slip through, they eventually get kicked out of the scene, man. They'll eventually fade out of the limelight. You have legends who have been around for so many years, just absolutely dominating the scene. Andre Galvao, Marcelo Garcia, Hoyce, Hoyler, Hickson, all the guys who originally started. And you have guys like Glover and Ryan Hall and some of the best jiu-jitsu guys in the world. And those guys are still around because look at almost every one of them. Their competition speaks for itself, and they're not douchebags, as far as I know, most of the time. And it's the guys who let that ego get ahead of them. They don't last. They're a fire in the night, coming like a meteor out of the sky.
Yeah. And
they'll eventually touch down, and then we won't hear about them anymore. It's just, that's the way I see it.
Well, I mean, that is kind of reassuring to know that you're like, God, that guy's a douchebag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, he'll be around forever. But like you said, hopefully they just kind of fade away. And
the filter is there, but the people around them is what really allows them to do it. I had this quote that I saw on social media one day, and I'll never forget it. It said, "What you allow is what will continue." And not only is that very true for like our political situation right now, but it's true with everything in life. If we allow people like that to affect our life, people like that will keep affecting our life. And if one of the things I've learned is if someone else's douchebag filter doesn't work, I just got to ratchet mine a little tighter, because I don't need to be around them. I don't need to look on the news and see what this guy's doing or that guy's doing, because I don't care.
Right.
It doesn't affect my life.
Yeah. God. Yeah. So I know like something that like I talked to you about with our school is one of the big measuring sticks is I want everybody to be comfortable in the school. And you talked about, having to kick somebody out for having that bad attitude problem. And adding that with the douchebag filter, all the other good stuff. Like, do you find, most of the schools are kind of the same. Like, of course, there are going to be one or two outliers, but there seems to be usually a generally good positive attitude in most schools you go to.
Yeah, absolutely. I can usually tell the merit of a school by how the white belts and blue belts are treated by the other people in the school. And I say that because I was a white belt for a long time. I told you guys that earlier today. And it is because I basically was a bulldog. I kept charging in when I shouldn't have charged in. I kept thinking that my strength was going to beat everything, And one of the things that I realize now is that if I go into a jiu-jitsu academy and I train with them and everybody's beating up on the white belts, they're not helping them grow. They're just basically being the hammer and the nail, like the old saying goes. But if there's true camaraderie as a team, you can't beat that. And that's what sets the filter in my mind. Having mid-level jiu-jitsu guys in your team who are hungry to learn but also willing to help, because they set the example for the lower belts. It can't always be everybody looking up to the black belt. It can't always be everybody looking up to the brown belt that's taking over for the black belt when he's on vacation or whatever. It has to be, hey, that white belt is going to look to that first blue belt because he's not afraid to ask him, hey, can you help me with this? You know? And if you don't have that good mid-range of experience and humbleness or humility in those guys, the white belts are just going to bail. And the ones who do make it to blue belt, they're going to bail when they get their blue belt. Oh, I got my blue belt. Cool, I'm done. Or they get frustrated because they don't feel like they're improving because everybody else is still smashing them more. You get that blue belt, man, it's like a big target on your back.
Oh, yeah.
The purples want to smash you. The browns want to see if you're any good. The black belt wants to just crush your spirit, you know. And the white belts are still trying to strive and prove that they can beat you, you know. And you just got your blue belt and you're like, oh, man, I got it. Cool. Everything gets 10% harder and then 20% harder and 40% harder because everybody's starting to ratchet down on you, you know. That's why blue belts, in my opinion, is one of the hardest belts to get past. Once you make your purple belt, okay, you got some clout. You can hang with the big boys and you can teach some of the younger guys, you know. But yeah, that's the filter for me is I look at the level of how the lower people are treated, and that's where we go from there.
Yeah, because they make up the majority of your academies anyways.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, it's hard enough to find purple belts out here, but we
Yeah.
got a slew of white and blue belts.
Exactly.
Which is great. And, you know, for that and, you know, like I was talking about with filters and whatnot, I keep coming back to it, but I want to move on to something different.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, before this, I was talking about like, we get like scary stuff and you're talking about like scary stories and whatnot.
Sure.
So, for jiu-jitsu stuff, has there ever been a time, you know, like you've been frightened, just scared out of your mind about either competing or having to use it or just bad situation maybe?
I remember one time when I was training, I had just started doing jiu-jitsu. Actually, I was still a white belt. I was probably about 6 months in, and I was living in this apartment complex, and I looked out my window, my back sliding glass window one day, and I have this little back porch area with a little tiny wooden fence, and I see this guy in the parking lot, and he's got a hammer, and he walks up to this car, and he swings the hammer and smashes the window, and he jumps inside and he starts trying to rig the car and take off. I guess he was trying to steal a speaker or something. And I didn't stop. I didn't even think about the guy's got a freaking hammer in his hand. He could have weapons or whatever. I jumped over the fence and went after him. And I literally pinned his arm against his back and yanked him out of the car. And the guy had a screwdriver in his hand. I mean, he could have literally just stabbed me in the eye or something. And I didn't have any control other than I learned this arm hold, you know, like 3 weeks before.
Yeah.
And I pulled him out of the car. And luckily enough, the guy was maybe half my size. And I didn't realize it, which I felt was very lucky. And I grabbed his arm. I pulled him out kind of backwards out of that front seat. And I wrapped him up in an RNC. And I was yelling in his ear, you better drop the screwdriver. I'm going to choke you out. And luckily the apartment complex people were sitting right there at the office and they called the cops and stuff. But that was the first time, even as a teenager, I was like, that was really stupid. I have not prepared for this at all. And I didn't even think. I just went and did it. And, you know, that for me was my first scary experience. And I've probably had, I don't know, 10, 15 other experiences like that. But there's situations where you don't think about it and you just rely on your training.
Right.
And we've seen many other people. I saw this video just recently about Ryan Hall. He was in a restaurant one time and this guy was getting total drunk and stupid. And he just, you know, wrapped him up and escorted him outside. He got smacked around a little bit and the cops came in and took care of it. But the best way to avoid that kind of scary stuff is to not instigate the scary stuff to happen.
Yeah.
You know, not be the douchebag that's causing it and just be ready to protect yourself and your family if you need to. But the scenarios are always the same. It's always someone either drunk or stupid, someone that's got an ego that thinks they can kick your ass or, you know, put you down. And if you don't fight that with your own ego, you'll be a lot safer.
Drunk and stupid, ego. So I mean, it sounds almost like you're going to a Hooters to watch a UFC, which, you know, like I said, everything is going back to stuff we talked about earlier, which I just find funny, and it's kind of good to hear like someone who somewhat agrees with it too. But like going to a Hooters or Buffalo Wild Wings to watch the UFC is probably one of the more painful experiences I've ever had in my life.
It's painful, but it's also funny on such a fundamental level, because as experienced guys, like, you know, you're a purple belt and I'm a black belt. We've been on the mats plenty of times. And there's always that guy in the background like, oh man, he'd never hit me. I'd take him down. I'd smash him with my fist, you know, and that guy's never fought in his life. You know, I saw this other quote on Facebook. It was like, most men are 4,000% less effective in a fight than they think they are. And it just cracks me up because it's like, that's true, man. It's bragging and ego that just makes me laugh. You go to a place like that for a good time and people like that they're a dime a dozen.
Showing their ass. Yeah. Do you think like, with the popularity of the UFC as it is right now, we've got Conor McGregor looking to fight Floyd Mayweather,
Yeah.
There's a UFC fight night / prelim / UFC 2000 / whatever.
Yeah.
Almost every other weekend.
Absolutely.
And they're always shown, sports bars, wherever. Do you think that is helping with the popularity of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or do you think it's kind of more making the UFC mainstream, but people are still kind of hesitant to pull the trigger and maybe to step into a gym?
That's a really good question. I actually have thought about that before. I think that having UFC so often now is maybe dumbing things down a little bit, because we're basically starting to see the same kind of techniques and skills being repeated over and over again. And it's now becoming more of a who can talk more shit and who can win to make more money. And what does that remind you of? You got not so legit real wrestling like WWE and all that F or whatever it is.
Right.
You have a lot of shit talkers. You have a lot of rivalries that aren't real. You have, guys who basically are in it for the money. And if it's not a big enough paycheck, they don't even hardly try anymore, And then you have guys who talk a lot of shit but can back it up. And then you have guys who are totally humble and they're world champions.
Yeah.
And those are the guys who impress me, not the guys who talk the most shit. And this is nothing against guys like Chael Sonnen. I love listening to him just talk things up, man. I love it because it's like, his personality, the way he's doing it, and that he wins and he loses quite a bit. And you get a guy like Conor McGregor who's like, hey, I'm the man, and come and take it if you can. But in my mind, having it at facilities like, Buffalo Wild Wings and the sports bars and stuff, that's, I think, in my mind, and I'm going to say this and it's going to sound funny, but it's kind of to appease the masses, because it's for the people who will never get on the mats and actually put the time in to train. And they're the ones who don't understand that those fighters are literally in the gym 6 to 7 hours a day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. Not only are they training wrestling, they're training jiu-jitsu, they're training Muay Thai, they're training boxing, they're cutting weight, they're getting their nutrition lined up, they're going to fight camps, they're going to, Mike Dolce is like one of the best guys in the world for getting you in shape. Everybody knows these guys that do this stuff. And even now with the crackdown on sports enhancement and stuff, the UFC has become more, in my mind, a show than a true test of like the actual art of the fighter anymore. But it's still those guys that work hard and train hard that make it what it is. And the guys who sit at the bar drinking the beer are never going to get in the cage and shut up and do it.
Yeah.
I did MMA for a little while, and I tell you, it was the hardest shit I've ever done in my life, because all the hundreds and thousands of hours of time I put on the mats didn't compare to getting in the cage and getting your face smashed. Because jiu-jitsu is great. It's amazing. But if you haven't never trained jiu-jitsu while someone's trying to punch your face, it's different.
It
gets very desperate, because you're like, oh, this guy is going to hurt me bad,
Yeah.
So you have to really know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the best situation would be, or I don't even know if this is a good idea or a bad idea. Why don't you just open up a gym right next to a B-dubs? Just give stand out there, just be like, oh, you drunk?
Yeah.
Well, here's a 1-year contract, man.
Come on in, buddy.
It's terrible, but I can only see how terrible that would be, because just having just weird people come to the gym too.
Absolutely.
I know you've definitely had to have some weird guys come in.
Absolutely, especially over when I was in LA boxing. This was before they all became UFC gyms and stuff, and guys would come in off the street. We were in this little shopping complex, and they go next door, they get like a 2-liter bottle or whatever or something, and they literally sit out there on the curb and drink, and then try and come into a boxing class. And I'm not saying LA boxing is bad. It wasn't. It was more of a fitness gym.
Right.
Some of us really worked hard to build legit teams. Like I trained under Will Wilson over there, a boxer. The guy was phenomenal. He's a great amateur boxer. Bonnie Mann, female world champion. I mean, there is real talent in gyms like that. But But these people would come in off the street thinking, yeah, I've had 3 boxing classes. I'm going to get in the ring and be an amateur fighter. No, sir, please don't. You have 0 time in this. You have a couple of boxing classes.
Yeah.
You came in for some fitness and lost 5 pounds and you think you're going to go get in the ring. No, please don't. Please don't. I literally had to talk people out of thinking that they were fighters. And I would get guys who'd come in for like 3 jiu-jitsu classes and be like, yeah, I'm an MMA fighter now. No, dude, you barely know how to even sit in base. I mean, we went over base for an hour today.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just the very, very tip of the iceberg. And I'm like, if you can't even pass someone's guard, how do you think you're going to escape? How do you think you're going to dominate them on the ground or in a fight on your feet? You're not. You're going to get beat up, you know? So, yeah, I see that a lot. And luckily where I'm at now, we're a community center.
Yeah.
So we have a filter already at the door. Most people don't come into a community center looking for a fight. You know, as a nonprofit, I think that's the best thing we could have done is just moved into a gym downstairs in a community center and said, hey, we're doing jiu-jitsu, man. Anything else, you can go out the door.
Yeah.
You know?
So, I mean, so I know you say you're in a community center now, and I know we talk about fighters. What about, now, I always go back to my Taekwondo background. I mean, you can see I still have my belt up because I'm like super duper proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, so have you had any of the traditional martial arts guys come in and talk about like, well, if I did this, there's no way you're going to be able to take me down because I've just do this open hand palm strike to your chest.
You see this big smile on my face right now? I love that question because it happens all the time. We don't get as many guys coming in off the street as we get like, hey, I did Silat for like 15 years. Can I do your jiu-jitsu? Yeah, sure, man. Come on the mat. It's cool. And you watch him move and you go, that's cool. Now actually use your hands on your opponent. Oh, no, I'm going to use this circular motion to deflect. I'm like, there's not going to be any deflection. The guy's going to grab your neck and pull you down to a triangle choke. You're not going to be able to smack him around and get his hands off of you. You need to relax. You need to take the good points of your previous training and apply it to the technique first and learn jiu-jitsu first and then see if that other stuff helps you out. I've had guys from like Taekwondo schools. I've had guys from, my favorite is judo because judo and jiu-jitsu obviously go hand in hand. They come from the same mother and father. You know what I mean? As far as like the art. And my personal opinion is Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys don't train enough judo. And my other opinion is judo guys don't train enough ground game.
Yeah. You
got Newaza, and any Newaza night is ground night. Boom. And if you're not training actual grappling, pinning your opponent doesn't work in jiu-jitsu. You can pin me all day long. I'm setting you up. Pin me, go ahead. I'm going to take that arm. Thank you, sir. You know what I mean? So I have, even the first day we opened up Foundations, I had a judo guy come in. And we were putting on a free seminar, a free clinic with me and 2 other brown belts, 2 of my brown belt instructors. And we were going over something like an Ezekiel choke, you know, and from this position. And it was a very secure, like, mount position. And the judo guy goes, yeah, but you'll never take me to the ground. And I was like, there's 100 ways I could take you to the ground. He's like, yeah, but that choke will never work because once I'm on my back, I'll just turn. I'll do this thing with my hips. And I'm like, that's great. That's judo. This is jiu-jitsu, and I have an answer for that. You know, and by the way, trying to not get choked, you need your hands, you need your body, but judo is very good for certain things and jiu-jitsu is very good for other things. For me to not take you down, your judo better be the best in the world because I trained some judo too.
Right.
You know, I've trained wrestling, I've trained sambo, I've trained these other arts too. And all that stuff culminates in when you get a guy like that who just thinks that judo's the way or karate's the way or, you know, I'm a Muay Thai guy. That's awesome. If you can keep me away with your range and distance with your strikes and your kicks, awesome, great. And if I can't get my hands on you and I can't take you down, you may win the fight. Because if you knock me out, good, you won. But if I get my hands on you, it's a different story, you know? So yeah, I get that. I get that a lot. Traditional guys coming in from other arts. But the way that we accept them into our gym, it's like getting a new family member.
Right. And
a lot of guys who come in with that traditional, like, oh, this is the best style. I came from here. I did this for years and years. Cool, man. Let's teach you some jiu-jitsu and see if that can apply. And even if they don't think that our style is the best, eventually they learn. And if you start learning a little bit, you want to learn more. And I've seen guys like that totally change from coming in with their single-mindedness and leaving with open-mindedness. And if that's the only thing I can do with jiu-jitsu, I'll take that, man. So yeah. Excellent. Good question, man. I like that. That happens a lot.
I do have a few good questions from time to time from them kicking the face. forget all my brain doesn't work quite as good, you know, shit like that. With that though, you know, you do have that welcoming environment that does help out a lot. Have you just ever just had like some crazy dude just come in though?
I'll tell you a story, man. I had this guy come in one time, and it was at another gym that I wasn't the head coach.
Right.
I was training at another gym in Colorado, and the school was a Henzo affiliate, and this guy came in from some other jiu-jitsu school, and he was a beast. He was like 6'2", probably a good 230, 240 solid muscle, and he was a brown belt, and nobody could touch him. Nobody could get this guy. And then we had this one judo guy, and so I'm going to go back to another martial art.
Right.
We had this one judo guy named Kim something, I can't remember his last name. And he'd been a black belt for years and years and years, and he came from Korea, and he was a champion over there, and he trained over here in jiu-jitsu, and he's got his black belt by now, but we were all frustrated because we couldn't even break this guy's guard. We couldn't even get him down on the mats. It was like he was a beast, you know. He reminds me of the old Goldberg. Remember that guy from WWE? Just beastly. And this little judo guy walks up to him. He's like, "I'll roll with you." You know, he's got like his purple belt and jujitsu on. And the guy doesn't know he's a judo guy, and the other guy's wearing his gi. And I'm not kidding you. It was the fastest takedown I've ever seen. You know, I was working with one of the students today on Sanagi.
Right.
He walked in, dropped Sanagi, that guy, boom, on his back, wrapped his arm up and tapped him out in like 4 seconds. Because as soon as he hit the ground, he turned and stepped up, and there's the armbar right there.
Right.
You know, and it reminded me of never judge a book by its color. Because even though this guy was a beast, and, you know, Kim over here is like this little dude who we all knew was a scrapper.
Yeah.
He's the first guy who taught me how to do Keisagatame the right way. You know, like judo side control, like really apply the pressure and really get your hips the right way. And like the stuff I showed you guys, when you really apply it, it works really well. And he for like the next 10 minutes, he just kept wrapping him up. I don't think Kim ever tapped once. And this guy was all over the mats. I mean, throwing him left and right, taking him down. Ankle picked him one time, even though I know in judo you're not supposed to do that anymore.
Yeah.
The guy had skills though. But by the time this guy was done, he wasn't one of those ones who opened his eyes. He was like, "Well, screw this place, man." And I heard later on that he went to another gym down the street, which is an Amal Easton school. And those guys don't play around, man. They're Henzo affiliates too. And Amal Easton's one of the best black belts I've trained under. And they just put him on the mats too. And I think they just crushed his ego. Once he got broken a little bit, he got broken a lot, you know. And it wasn't a scary thing for me because I wasn't the guy getting beat up.
Yeah.
But I rolled with him one time and I was like, damn, I can't, you know, you get that feeling like, oh shit, I can't get this guy with anything. And if he gets his hands on me, I'm screwed. You know, so it was like, get out of the way, deflect, move, pressure, change angle, get off of it. Don't let him get on top of you, you know. But when I saw little Kim do that, I was like, oh, there's hope. I can make it. I'll just train with him some more.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was scary, but it was good. It was a good eye opener for me.
That's good. Real good. So Mike, before we wrap up the podcast, is there anything or anybody you'd like to give a shout out to and say hello or thank them or anybody you want to talk about, you can.
I'm going to keep it really short. Okay. I've been really, really happy with the way Foundations has gone. I got to thank my two other instructors, Matt and Arun. And I'll post this so that they can hear it somewhere, so they can hear me say this. But without those two guys, I wouldn't have Foundations because they're my right and left hands. I can do so much. I can train so much. I can do paperwork. I can do IRS stuff. I can run business stuff. But I can't teach every single day and run all the classes and make sure everyone's getting what they need as far as knowledge and skill. And the three of us together, even though we're not the three amigos, we have like the three cornerstones of our foundation. You know. Arun is like my encyclopedia of jiu-jitsu. Anything I need to know as far as a technique that is coming out that's new or something that I totally forgotten about, I just go and ask him. His note-taking is the most ridiculously on-point notes I've ever seen from all the years he's been training. And Matt is my combination guy. He's my judo and jiu-jitsu guy because he's a black belt in judo and a high-level brown belt in jiu-jitsu. And then the other person is my wife, man. Like I told you before, she's a rock star. She's without her, I wouldn't be able to do the stuff I'm doing, like being out here in Germany with you guys right now. This has been a phenomenal week, and without her, like I said, couldn't do it. So yeah, those are my three main go-tos right now. Anyone else who I've ever trained with, all my black belt friends and stuff, yeah, those guys are great, but I've thanked them so many times. they're tired of hearing it, you know? So yeah, that's good for those guys. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Mike, I really do appreciate you taking your time to come out to Germany, as well as taking some time to sit down. And you're like the first live guest we've had in the German studio, quote unquote, I guess.
Like, surrounded by all the goats on the wall.
Yeah.
I love this place, man.
I went on leave, if you guys haven't been following the Big Jiu-Jitsu page, and came back and my wife put pictures of goats on the wall with
all kinds of goats.
Yeah, like was it motivational quotes on them or something like that. Is the true triumph of reason is that it enables us to get along with those who do not possess it. And there's a goat like
it's just a picture of a goat.
It's a black and white goat. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. But I think I'll keep them.
We should call this the goat room.
The goat. Hey, yeah, there you go.
There you go. You heard it here first.
It's the goat room. But yeah, Mike, thanks for coming in, man. I really
Rob, I appreciate you guys inviting me out. Like I told you guys earlier in the closeout of the day today, I'm honored. If my jiu-jitsu helps you guys, remember what I said. It's not my jiu-jitsu. It's all the people who've helped me train and get to my black belt level. And I'm paying it forward, man, as much as I can. I'll travel anywhere anyone wants to bring me, or anywhere I can get to by myself and teach, and I'll do it. You know.
Hell yeah.
So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of the Big Jiu-Jitsu Show, member of the Pod Bros Podcast Network. Don't forget to go to podbros.com and find yourself another podcast you want to listen to. And please visit our sponsors, Trap and Roll Soap Company, Tape Armor, and Angry Joe Coffee. And you can find all of our old episodes on bjjshow.com or on iTunes. I'm Rob, and I'll catch you guys next time.